sponsored by
the Gamma Group. Which are the ones for replacement, to see if we have any hope to see the greenfield projects, meaning new mining projects. And for this, we will have Luis Miguel Castilla present, former economy minister, and also the director of Videnza Institute to analyze this.
That's right, Cesar. We will also have Erick García Portugal present, former hydrocarbons director of the Ministry of Energy and Mines, to comment and tell us how the finances are doing Petroperu after the presidential speech from President Ina Boluarte, where she indicated there will be a phase of restructuring and austerity. We'll see what happens with
aspect, this state entity. Indeed, the board led by Oliver Stark, according to many analysts, is doing things quite well, is on the right path. For the first time in years, we see in Petroperu perhaps some possibility that this restructuring will come to a good end. Let's go immediately to the mining news of the week with Gabriel Alcicoma.
These are the main mining news of the week.
The Brazilian company Nexa Resources, operator of the largest underground zinc mine in Peru, Cerro Lindo, reported an outstanding financial performance in the second quarter of the year. Net revenues reached $736 million, an increase of 17% when compared to the same period last year, driven by high zinc prices and increased volumes of sales. The VP and GM of Berkrick Mining, Andres Franco, stated that the Corani project in Puno aims to ensure most activities are done with Peruvian suppliers. Additionally, Franco stated that they are currently evaluating the scenario of local suppliers and will invite them to participate in an expo where they will also detail what is required for the work to be done in the area located around 5,000 meters above sea level. The head of the advisory cabinet of the Ministry of Energy and Mines, Antonio Mendoza, indicated that they have the commitment and the goal to mature and push forward the 51 mining projects that they have in their portfolio, which encompass an investment totaling $54,556 million. In that sense, to make them feasible, he revealed that at Minem, they are working on improvements to environmental regulations, mining, and social policies.
Thanks to Gabriel Alcicoma for the main mining news of the week. As we announced, now in our studio is the former Minister of Economy and Finance, Dr. Luis Miguel Castilla, who is also the director of the Videnza Institute. With him, we will talk about the impacts that have occurred from the announcement, the economic announcements, by President Dina Boluarte on July 28th regarding mining. Miguel, always a pleasure to have you here.
Delighted.
Well, the outlook, to be honest, leaves much to be desired, and you have constantly written about it in Gestión, which we follow closely. In reality, it seems that President Boluarte is filled with an enthusiasm that is sometimes very fragile because it is not corroborated. Not even from public revenues, fiscal revenues, given that the parliament has focused on undermining the political system. But we would like to know your impression, let's say the good, the bad, the ugly, of the economic announcement.
I believe that the president, since she began her term, lacks a clear understanding of what the public thinks and her ability to convey messages that effectively change expectations. The good thing is that there is no kind of reluctance to promote private investment, at least in the official rhetoric at the highest level. It is reaffirmed that closing gaps through public-private partnerships is the way to do it. Proinversión has had good activity, which is very noteworthy. I think in the mining sector, there is a clear commitment to materialize projects, and that is different from what happened 5 years ago when mining was absent, an omission in presidential speeches because it was seen as politically incorrect. It emphasizes infrastructure, which I think is good, and from there, I think the message starts to enter more uncertain territory because it tries to cover too many topics, too many promises, minor announcements, and a message so long, so extensive, so drawn out, loses the effectiveness of focusing on 4 or 5 key points with real concrete measures. And there are omissions related to, I believe, a much more effective approach to illegal mining, which keeps advancing regarding public insecurity, which is a great tax that today undermines the basic pillar of popular capitalism, which is subject to extortion, to payments. And the omission for me, as an economist, the biggest, is that it promises a lot, but it does not say how it will fund its promises. So I think it is a speech that once again missed the opportunity to connect with the people. But it should be noted that there are positive messages in promoting private investment specifically.
Luis Miguel, as we mentioned, it was surprising that President Boluarte spoke about mining and its effect as a dynamizer, but it was even more surprising the support that the government has given to the Tia Maria project and the benefits it will bring to Arequipa, the communities of Valle del Tambo, and to the country in general. Were you surprised by this announcement supporting the Tia Maria project? And there's concern that all this will just be words, right? What should be the role from now on for the future, the government regarding the mining sector?
Well, it shows that she is a president in tune with the sector minister because the minister has promoted it unwaveringly, a project as important as Tia Maria. There, I assume that progress has been made, creating the necessary conditions, especially at the level of local actors, to mitigate conflicts, social conflicts and issues. It is a project that becomes emblematic because it met all the formal requirements, but it did not gain the famous social acceptance. I think today we are in a better position than before, but I believe the key is for the company to move forward with its project to create a dam that provides access to water resources. It is said to irrigate 11,000 hectares, benefit 5,000 farmers, and this should start as soon as possible. I think the messages are clear. Now, managing and mitigating risks will be the main task at hand, which should go beyond what the Ministry of Energy and Mines or the government wants, but to possess a more proactive and engaged conviction from the governor, who has shown, I believe, to be somewhat lukewarm. And clearly local actors, many of whom are outsiders, not necessarily from the area of influence, but I'm glad they are committed. I am very critical of the government for not wanting to make waves with announcements. Now, the important thing is to support and generate greater acceptance for a project that is so emblematic for the country.
In the short term, we have more than anything else the execution of brownfield projects, that is the replacement of many mining units. This one already sees with expansion. There's Corani, there's Chalcobamba. Anyway, the president mentioned them, and Minister Romulo Mucho also pointed that out, paying attention to the fact that we have this one series of replacements, but we also have to bet on greenfield projects and proposals, that is, new investments, because they need to be opened. Do you think, Miguel, that there is room for this in the medium term, in the short term, given how things are going?
Tia Maria is a greenfield project. Safranal is another greenfield one, and both are in Arequipa, hopefully on the way to finally materializing. So I believe there needs to be a greater commitment to creating the conditions for these projects to happen. And this will depend on the state's capacity at all 3 levels and the company's ability to solve some key problems that stop many of these projects from happening. One factor is access to water resources. Cajamarca, for instance, which we know is the region with the greatest mining potential in the country. Now discussions have resumed about making the Chonta company viable, and that could provide water to the city of Cajamarca and enable a greater level of acceptance in the region that is the richest in the nation in copper and gold. So I think it will depend on the state's ability to close these gaps and, as they say colloquially, silence those who raise flags against the rational exploitation of our natural resources, addressing these shortcomings and the lack of water to make many projects viable. Greenfield, because the potential is vast, but it will depend on the effectiveness of public-private action to make projects viable and achieve the so-called social acceptance.
Romulo Mucho mentioned a few days ago that the issue of combating illegal mining should be handled by the Ministry of the Interior and the Armed Forces. In the speech also given by President Ina Boluarte, she mentioned some isolated actions regarding the fight against this issue, against illegal mining activities. Did you expect more in the speech about mentioning a concrete strategy on how to combat illegal mining effectively and what could we possibly contribute, right? Or, that is, in other words, without a clear government plan for that fight like there is against drug trafficking, they should already, once and for all, put a strategy on the table to combat mining.
Illegal mining? Without a doubt, Miguel, it has the elements, and I'm surprised the president didn't mention it. For example, an important part is knowing how to distinguish illegal mining from small-scale mining, the artisanal kind, which has existed for millennia and will continue to operate, and in this sense, to seek an effort of formalization, which of course dispenses with reinfo, but instead builds upon a more modern policy of incentives. And a crucial factor in this fight against illegal mining, which hasn't been mentioned and is urgent, is that the oversight responsibility for small-scale mining, which often turns illegal, mainly falls on regional governments. Speaking with the Ministry of Energy and Mines, they say, no, that's not up to me, it's up to regional governments. So I think a debate about the responsibilities of that level of government becomes crucial not only to oversee the mining areas of extraction, but the entire chain, including the processing plants where the most complex link of illicit mining activity is found. So, I believe it's essential to have a comprehensive view on this, not just the stick, interdiction, or the involvement of the armed forces, but a much more effective task of seeing who is responsible for what and what to strengthen while looking at the entire chain, or, as the National Mining Society rightly says, the traceability of illegal gold. It is crucial to address it for more effective policies and combat this terrible scourge.
A methodological error in President Boluarte's speech was precisely, placing it within the same context, the promotion of the new law for small-scale and artisanal mining, along with a mention of it, of course with a salute to the flag, to the fight against illegal mining. And that generates precisely confusion within the logic you are explaining.
I fully agree, because that is a chapter that deserved a more thorough and detailed approach. And one thing is to fight against illegal acts, where the force of law prevails. And another thing is to enable an activity that must be formalized and has existed for many, many years. It is ancient in the country, and that requires, obviously, a change, a different strategy, and seek not only incentives, but greater state presence, and again, to configure that this bill presented by the executive can be a spearhead for achieving real progress and not this misuse of the reinfo system. What it has done is give legality to activities that harm the environment and have a perverse social and economic impact for the country.
Miguel, as always, it is very pleasant to have you on Rumbo Minero. Many more questions remain, but Thank God we always have your kind participation and can continue, especially discussing the evolution we are observing and seeing of economic impacts in mining for the rest of the year. Thanks a lot. Very kind. And Miguel Castilla, the Minister of Economy and Finance, was with us. He is also, I recall, the Director of Videnza Institute. Let's go with Gabriel Hachicoma and more info about Spomina.
Thank you very much. Expomina Peru from November to September 2024 will be chaired by Luis Rivera, Executive Vice President of Gold Seed Las Americas. Highlight your brand through various sponsorships we offer at Expomina Peru. Networking opportunities, participation in exclusive activities, media promotion, among other important benefits. For more information, visit our website at www.expominaperu.com.
Well, in our international segment, American Mining, we connect as always from Wall Street, New York, with José Gonzales, who is also responsible, the editor in charge of the international section of our magazine Rumbo Minero. José, always a pleasure to be in touch.
Likewise, it's my pleasure.
It has been quite a week, very distressing from the view of some due to the volatility shown by some stock markets, mainly the one in the United States, after Japan in Asia. And this is also due to a disorder, let's say, in the financial realm, because of growth expectations, interest rates, and so on, a series of factors. This actually, as some economists have already stated, had no basis over time. But anyway, it is worth asking if it has affected in any way the expectations around the prices of metals and the impacts that may have also occurred in this matter.
That's right, Cesar, as you mentioned. The correction of the stock markets on Monday the 5th in what has been called another Black Monday due to the crash of October 1987 began in Japan. The Tokyo Stock Exchange, which had been experiencing a revival after many years of remaining stagnant and unproductive, saw a drop of 12.4% after the Central Bank of Japan announced an increase in the interest rates, causing significant concern. According to Barron's, that Monday and for the third consecutive day, U.S. stocks were affected with a 3% drop in the S&P 500 index, more than 8% from its all-time high in mid-July, and a 3.43% drop in the Nasdaq. And it focuses on tech stocks, which have fallen 13% from their all-time high, causing significant market concerns. What happened besides Japan? As often happens in these market events, and as you mentioned, it was a concatenation of factors that created the perfect storm. The big tech companies, the Magnificent Seven as they are called, announced lower than expected results. We are in the season of corporate earnings. Of the second quarter announced in the third. The Federal Reserve kept interest rates steady and did not lower them as the market had hoped. A series of macroeconomic indicators revealed weak industrial figures and low hiring rates, showing a downturn in the economy, lower than expected inflation in July, and an unexpected rise in unemployment rates. To make matters worse, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's conglomerate, reported it had sold about half of its stake in Apple Computers during the last quarter, surprising many in the market. The combination of these factors was seen by investors as a clear sign of recession, prompting them to reposition investment portfolios, causing the correction in the market. The repositioning by investors also impacted oil and hard commodities tied to global economic growth. Brent crude lost $2 to reach $75 per barrel, one of the lowest levels in the past 12 months, with copper prices reaching $3.90. Let's remember that it peaked at $5.20 this year and dropped below $4, which is considered the support level for the metal tied to global industry. Gold, on the other hand, regained some of the lost ground in recent weeks, trading at $2,403 per ounce as a safe haven asset. During the week, the stock markets recovered their levels, but oil and metal contracts did not see the same recovery, surpassing the fact that while global economies are not currently in a recession, they could be in the coming months. Over time, oil prices should recover and copper prices should rise. However, the situation may worsen due to recession fears or economic slowdown, especially in the United States, which could continue to negatively affect metals and minerals.
Jose, we are almost there, right? The event will take place from September 11th to 13th, at Expomina Peru 2024, the most important mining event of this year. And within the framework of Expomina, Confemin will also take place, as all our viewers know. And one of the conferences to be held is the Congress on Green Hydrogen and Alternative Energies. Can you tell us, please, who leads it and what the theme is?
A pleasure, Miguel. According to the Coalition for Green Hydrogen, hydrogen has been safely used for decades in industrial applications like semiconductor manufacturing, the production of fertilizers, and oil refining, with consumption of over 94 million tons per year worldwide. To date, most hydrogen used in industrial applications has been produced from fossil fuels. Today, however, green hydrogen can be made from renewable resources like solar energy and biomass energy, wind energy, and can replace fossil fuels in some of the most polluting and hard to electrify sectors like heavy transport, aviation, shipping, manufacturing, farming, and energy. Considering these innovations, the Green Hydrogen and Alternative Energies Congress aims to focus on the changes occurring in the global energy matrix, with special emphasis on green hydrogen as a key alternative for decarbonization and improving global energy efficiency, and the potential Peru has, given its geographical position and natural resources, to produce green hydrogen not only for domestic use but also for export. The forum is chaired by Brendan Oviedo, President of the Peruvian Society of Renewable Energies. See you at the Yoki Exhibition Center from the 11th to the 13th of September.
Wonderful, Jose. Many thanks as always for this detailed report, and we will be connected next week with you again. So it will be. Jose Gonzales, International Editor of Rumbo Minero magazine from Wall Street, New York. And you already know you can freely access the Rumbo Minero magazine just by using the internet, by logging into your account at www.rumbominero.com. All the information that you have heard from Jose Gonzales from the United States will also find a detailed summary, and above all, the scope of the new announcements in the mining sector. Don't forget Rumbo Minero. You can access it freely. www.rumbominero.com, Miguel.
That's right, Cesar. It's time to move on to the AMSAC mining asset segment.
The environmental situation in Loroya was very complex. Peru had to take on its guardian responsibility to look out for the health of the people and the ecosystem.
In the past, the streets and roads were muddy and stony, so there was pollution. And that has changed because now it has been covered. Mining assets have been fixed. Everything that was poisoned has now been covered, let's say, the environment.
Nowadays, Alto Marcaval has developed a lot, connecting commerce and transportation. New jobs have been created. Now it's a different quality of life. This place, as it is said, has developed a lot, right? Thanks to that, we now have more development in our association here in Alto Marcaval, right?
Even the animals used to suffer from what is called lameness. Lameness, some little animals that couldn't walk on the grass due to pollution, everything. Today, that disease has disappeared.
In these areas with exposed soils, with contaminated soils, I played with my brother, with my friends, with my family. It fills me with joy to work at a company that has made a change in La Oroya. Today's kids have a completely different reality.
Bravo, fantastic, wonderful, excellent, amazing.
As we announced, we are pleased to present Mr. Erick García Portugal, who has been the General Director of Hydrocarbons of the Ministry of Energy and Mines. With him, we'll discuss the finances of Petroperu. Erick, a pleasure to have you here.
A pleasure, and thank you for the invitation, Cesar
We
Miguel.
will start with the announcements made by President Dina Boluarte in July regarding this topic. Petroperu will not be privatized. Petroperu enters a process of restructuring. There is a board proposal in that direction. And what we want to know is if there is truly a foundation to successfully carry out this so-called restructuring.
Well, the board has already taken the first steps. I think the most important thing this new board did was to inform all Peruvians about the company's current situation. I believe that if we do not address the problem honestly, we will never find a solution. It's essential. Also, something important is the board proposed private management, which was misunderstood as privatization. Private management is crucial because it's complicated. Managing staff, especially career workers, involves difficult decisions like layoffs. It's quite challenging, truly. These are very tough decisions. When we must make choices, they should be made rationally. Private management will greatly assist. Recently, something significant was mentioned for this restructuring. The law has already been announced and enacted. This is crucial. Where the headquarters of Petroperu and Estalara will aid in negotiations with many workers who obviously won't want to go there. And well, it will provide a negotiation mechanism. Also, it was announced that fortunately, the flexi-cooking unit has been completely repaired and is currently being tested. We hope that by this August, it starts operating at full capacity. This unit generates the most value for the company, and that little by little, the negative numbers of the company can be reversed. Something that is very important for everyone to understand is that this is not a short-term solution. Some people think that once the flexi-cooking unit starts, imagine it begins operating at full capacity on September 1st, and by September 2nd, we are already in the green. It is not like that. It is a process that will take, I believe, a couple of years, gradually reducing that debt. Also very important is, let's say, that the company is provided for, but in these 2 years, no other contingencies occur, like those that caused all the problems with the selection of a not-so-no technical board.
Erick, the numbers are clearly there. The debts that Petroperu has, the losses it is currently generating. But I wanted to know a bit more about what changed from May with the board's statement, which mentioned a certain level of autonomy privately to what the president said about restructuring. In such a very short period of time, did they change their mind? Or was it never in the government's plan suddenly not to privatize it, but rather a private entity manage the operations of Petroperu? What changed in these 2 recent months?
Well, I think nothing really changed. The board said from the very beginning a private management and the staff restructuring. What happened was a misunderstanding. I think the press and the unions said they want to privatize the company, and I think the board's clear statement was lost. The board said bad decisions were made, restructuring is needed, private management is required. Also, we must be very attentive to the forensic audit to see where the bad decisions were made in the past, because I think this is let's say it's a good chance for the country of changing things. I think the big issue with the state is that when any official makes poor decisions, nothing at all ever happens. No, what happens is they leave the company or a ministry. After 2 or 3 months, you find them in another ministry with a similar or better role, which in the private sector does not happen internationally. The hydrocarbon sector values reputation. You must protect your reputation, so companies will keep hiring you. If you make decisions and don't have good numbers, be sure it will be very difficult, hard for anyone to call you back. But in Peru, at least in the mining and hydrocarbon sectors, which are very private sectors, it is different to say it. Even if the state participates, we have to get used to it. That's why I praise the appointment of the minister a lot, because it is very important, someone from the mining energy sector, let's say, but we must get used to the sector always having experts know and that they take responsibility for their decisions, which is something we need to change and improve.
Sincere, we can perhaps focus on some items of this restructuring process, especially on the financial side, because by June of this current year, a net loss of US dollars has been reported by Petroperu, which also represents almost 19% more than what was recorded as a loss. June of the year of the year of July 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 of the year, that we should not expect, of course, in the short term, a solution magical that will relieve all these burdens that it has. Petroperu, but that's where I wanted to know your point of view on how it should be managed according to the proposals, including those of the board led by Oliver Stark, each step to have some horizon in this financial restructuring process.
Let's see, let's hope that as announced, the flexi-coking process will start 100%. What this will accomplish is that we will produce more valuable products, which will gradually reverse the negative numbers. But something important that we are not saying, and thank you for the question, is how we recover markets. No, that has not been mentioned. And unfortunately, we need to do a re-engineering, which is why I also understand that the private management that will have Petroperu will have personnel who will lead with new strategies on how to gradually recover the market. Sometimes I hear many specialists say, no, I have a refining margin and I sacrifice my refining margin and offer the product cheaply. That is not exact, because that refinery has investors who have lent us money. So imagine telling the one who lent you money, no, by the way, I am going to lose, I will earn the minimum, because it is not so exact. So we need to see strategies on how to improve, and something important that has not been mentioned. The competition is quite strong, and many of the importers bring higher quality products. For example, some mining companies are requesting, they say, 15 parts per million. Some importers can bring 10 parts per million. Such, it will produce only 50. So there are many things we need to analyze. We need a very specific strategy for each client, how you will improve for each client. And something that has happened in recent years is that due to so many changes in the board and management, they have lost important mining sector clients. And something not mentioned is that the mining sector is a good client, but a serious one. It is not that they buy every month. They do medium-term processes, international tenders, where they supply for 3 years. So if you have lost some clients, miners, you will not reverse it in the short term, okay? So we need to make strategies a bit more innovative, right?
Well, Beatriz Fon and Pedro Gamio have been appointed as general manager and part of the board, respectively. What is your opinion about the appointment of these two professionals? Also, the issue of selling the main building of Petroperu. It is said that it is being offered at a very low price, the market value of this property, this building, and there have also been statements from the workers of the company saying that moving there could put the company at risk. What is your opinion on these matters?
Regarding the appointment of Pedro, well, we all know him in the sector. I think it is a wise choice, at least for him. It is, let's say, the reputation he has. What the board needed was to have honest professionals, which is the most important thing. In the case of Beatriz, I understand it is interim, someone also from Petro, but precisely as she will implement, the board has proposed private management. I understand that an administrator will come in. No, there are two ways to do it. Either you hire an administrator who appoints the managers, or you hire a company to be the consultants or advisors to the current managers. You have both mechanisms. No. And obviously these recommendations, whether with direct or indirect management, must be made. That's why you are hiring. So what I do know for sure is that they are in the process of hiring, deciding which model suits them the best. And well, during the transition, while the transition lasts, Beatriz is, let's say, a good professional. I see no issue. The big problem Petroperu will face is exactly what they have mentioned, the workers, who obviously will say many things to avoid leaving. But I want to make something very clear. Petroperu has nearly 3,000 workers, give or take, in numbers. We can find in the application Chile, which can process 6 to 7 times more than us, and even exports products, refined products, to other countries, and has almost half the number of workers. So what we need to understand is that in recent years, unfortunately, Petroperu in some areas, not all, has been used as an agency for employment, and that must be said. Petroperu has very good professionals, for instance, in Talara, and very well-trained professionals, and that must be clearly understood, because here we confuse two things. Sometimes I hear many people say, I have heard many people say, 30 or 40 years refining. A lot of experience, yes, but you've never seen Flexico. You've never seen all the mechanisms of this new refinery. And this new refinery is, let's say, top technology. Only a group of professionals who have been trained and are very young can manage it. Let's say it, so we should definitely first protect that staff, because if we don't protect that staff, what can happen is they get bored and leave, and we enter into a second crisis.
Decrees, moreover, very powerful, long-standing, and which also have as a goal, SATI, to indicate they have the acquired legal rights, almost immovable, as in many public companies like PAL, for example, the inheritance, they have of family positions. In short, there will be resistance, but perhaps besides the telework mode, it is a good formula that was said to have come with the pandemic to stay. And I think it is a way to measure, isn't it true, by achieved goals, the task of a worker.
We have to learn from the private sector. I have worked many years in the public sector, and something I highly value in the private sector is that they work by objectives. So I was working during the pandemic with the team from the Ministry of Energy and Mines, and almost 95% of the staff I was in charge of was teleworking. But we changed the focus. The focus was on that you report to me every week, not how much you produce, because sometimes we confuse things. It's not about seeing you sitting for 8 hours. If I have to see you sitting for 8 hours, ask how much you produced. It's not the modern
That's
world,
not bad,
and it doesn't have to
from
be.
no point of view. Eric,
thanks.
We want to thank you very much for your presence. Many topics remain, but we will see the evolution from now on with a new interim general management, the new board, how Petroperu operates, and of course, we will count on your valuable opinion. Erick García Portugal, former Director of Hydrocarbons at the Ministry of Energy and Mines, joined us here at Rumbo Minero. Let's proceed now with Gabriela Chicoma, information about Expomina.
Thank you very much. Expomina Peru, the largest and most important mining meeting in Peru of 2024, with 16 years of history. Do business with the mining sector of Peru and America. Expomina Peru from September 11th to 13th, 2024, at the Yoke Exhibition Center in Lima. Portfolio of mining projects in Peru exceeding $53 million, and portfolio of mining projects in America totaling $450 million. Invest with the leaders. Participate in Expomina Peru 2024. For more information, please visit our website at www.expominaperu.com.
We are reaching the end of the program. Miguel, your namesake, Luis Miguel Castilla, has provided us a perspective, as always, valuable, based on his experience and also his studies and analysis regarding the positive and negative aspects of the message. But the significance of considering both the medium and long term, because for the short term we might have economic indicators, in quotes, that would benefit particularly the mining sector, but it still needs to be sustainable in the...
That's right. Just as Luis Miguel Castilla mentioned regarding the topic of greeting, not that the government should risk it for the issue of mining, and also the poor message regarding the fight against illegal mining.
Time. Garcia Portugal, who has been the Director of Hydrocarbons, has given us a very valuable perspective on how it has been proposed a solution for the restructuring of the state company Petroperu. And hopefully we all expect it to reach a good mean.
And which will obviously take a long time.
Indeed, as Eric says, let's not expect to result the day after tomorrow. My name is Cesar Campos, along with Miguel Zavala. We have been hosting Rumbo Minero Don't Move because up next is Peru Construy to talk about construction and infrastructure.